All right, so this is our third lesson, the first one after your first chapter quiz. Hopefully you guys did well. Now let's get into some actual construction on grid paper or graph paper or learning the coordinate plane. So this is some stuff that's probably review for you. All right, here's your warm-up. Going back to what you did before the quiz, use the number line here to compare less than or greater than for these four problems. Come back when you're done. Sorry about that. All right, here are the four problems answers. Again, I like it when you write the numbers and the greater than less than sign in the between them. All right, you're all warmed up. Let's get her going. Let's erase that. All right, so a couple vocab I want you to write down, and then I have a neat little graph that I spent a lot of time on, so I hope you spend the time to put it in your notes. Here are the four vocabulary we're going to talk about: coordinate plane, axes, and what are the two axes, and what are the two axes. So a coordinate plane is just any graph, any grid that you see that's formed by two number lines. One that is perpendicular to the other, and they share the center part, which is the origin. So there are four quadrants when you split it up. Quadrant 1 is the top right, quadrant 2 is the top left, quadrant 3 is the bottom left, and quadrant 4 is the bottom right. Now the two number lines are called the axes. The x-axis goes horizontally, and the y-axis goes vertically. So have those down in this before moving on. All right, other vocab, you don't have to put the lines, we already have the graph, but I want to emphasize these quadrants again, and we're going to make sure we write down the definition. The two axes divide the coordinate plane into four quadrants. You have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Now, with the ordered pairs in quadrant 1, it's always going to be a positive and a positive. Quadrant 2 is always going to be a negative and then a positive. Quadrant 3, both numbers are always negative. And quadrant 4 is positive and then negative. I would include that with your notes so that you remember this as we move on. Another note to write down is what the origin is. It's the point where the axes intersect. It's always 0, 0. There's no left or right movement. There's no up and down movement. So we just call it the origin. Have that down before moving on. Okay, so let's actually start to work in here. Let's identify quadrants. Let's see how good you are at identifying this. So it says that we need to name a quadrant where each point is located. So we have X, Y, and S. They are black dots and letters on the grid. So if you remember, it goes in counterclockwise fashion: 1, 2, I'm using Roman numerals here, 3, and 4. So first thing you have to do is find X. I'm going to use blue for this. Here's X. So which quadrant is that in? That's the bottom right, so that'd be 4. For Y, it's over here. Match it with the Roman numeral, quadrant 3. And S is found up here in quadrant 2. Now, if you have this graph and these images in your notebook, it'll be real easy to be able to remember these moving forward. So if you want to put this down in your notes, if you haven't put the quadrants, I'd encourage you to do that before moving on. All right, so let's go ahead and try these three. If you want to pause the video and try it on your own and then come back, you can do that. So if we find V, we see V is over here. What quadrant is that? Quadrant 1. Z. Do we see Z? Now Z is in between. I'm glad we did one of these. Z is in between. It's neither quadrant 1 or 2, so we say it's right on the y-axis. AXIS. Tricky one for you. We haven't done that yet. And then T is down here in quadrant 4. Okay? So if I asked for the answers, that's what you would have. And of course, 3 practice problems for you to do in your notebook. You don't have to put the grid in your notes yet, but you may want to use it because practice 1, 2, and 3 is going to use the same exact grid. Might want to put one in your notes so you can work through it. Come back when you're done. All right, so we had another one trying to trick you there with number 2. T is in quadrant 3 and B is in quadrant 1, but U is right on the y-axis. There's another letter on there that's on the x-axis. That would be A. So 2 of the 4 dots are not actually in a quadrant. Hopefully you got those right. Okay, let's move on to example. All right, we have a few more vocab or notes to write down. When we talk about putting dots on the grid, we have to be able to find their ordered pair. An ordered pair gives the location on a coordinate plane. So when you look at an ordered pair, it's usually in commas or in a parentheses with a comma separating them. The first number tells you how far to move right or left. Now moving right or left is actually going horizontal. That's the x-axis. So if I use some variables here to show what you put in there, that's what I'm doing. The second number tells you how far you move up or down. That's considered the y-axis. So ordered pairs would be the number that shows how far you had to go left or right on the number line, comma, how far you had to go up or down on the number line. Ordered pairs for the origin, since it's the center, is always 0, 0. So all the things that I have in brackets, the arrowed item, and even this thing I drew on the side is all you need for your notes. You don't need to copy everything else down. If you don't quite understand what I said, rewatch this part and come back. So here, I'm asking you to give the coordinates for each of the points. Here's x. So for x, we know that we're going to be putting this, so let's make sure we put that in our notes. I made it really big so it's easy to see. X is here. Okay? Hopefully you see me drawing that. So how do we get x? Remember, the way to think about it is you have to get onto the elevator. So we have several different elevators along the x-axis. You got to see how far over the elevator starts. For us, we're going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So the x-axis number is 4. Then we have to go down, and because we're going down, that's a negative value. So it's not just a positive 1, it's negative 1. So your ordered pair for this problem is 4, comma, negative 1. Make sure you write that down as an example before moving on. All right, let's look at another one here. I'll clear this. Now we're looking at y. So we got to find y here on the grid, and we'll see that on the coordinate plane, here's y. So we put our parentheses. First number we have to go with is the x, and it looks like we have to move over to negative 2. And then we're going to go down this time from negative 2, down negative 1, negative 2, and we end at negative 3. So there's your ordered pair for this one. Hopefully you're catching on or reviewing and remembering what you've learned here. All right, here's another couple coordinates here. Let's see if we can figure out the coordinates for these. So S is all the way over here, so that means we have to go over negative 3. And then we're going up this time, 1, 2, 3. So that's the ordered pair there. For V, we're looking over here, so we got to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So our X is 4. And our Y also goes up, so it's another positive 2. Z, let's get rid of some of the stuff over here so we're not getting confused. Z is right on the Y-axis, so this is pretty easy. There's no left or right movement at all, so the first number is going to be 0. But then we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0, comma 4. And finally, for T, Mr. T, we're going over here. So first we got to go to the right 1. And then we're going to go down 1, 2, 3. And because we're going down, that's negative 3. So you can copy these if you need to. If not, they're just more examples before we get into our practice. And here's your practice. You're going to have to find the coordinates for A, B, and U. Come back when you're done. So I'll use different colors to try to represent what we got here. For A, hopefully you found 0, negative 2. For B, 1, 2. And for C, hopefully for U, you got 0, comma, negative 3. All right, let's move on. Example 3, we're going to look here how to graph points on a coordinate plane. So now we're going to look at having the coordinates and the letter and how you put them on the graph. Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to find where the dot's going to go. So again, this is x, comma, y. X, comma, y. It tells us which number we have to do in what order. So for A, we're going to move x to 4. So x is left to right, so we're going to move over 1, 2, 3, 4. And then y is going to tell us which direction, up or down. It's positive, so it's up, and it's up 2 from that spot of 4. And then we put a dot right there. Last thing you need to do is actually put what letter this represents, which is V. All right, next one is -3, so we got to go x first, so we're going to go right, or left, sorry, -3. And then 1 up, so it's a +1. And the dot goes right there. And this is W, so we'll put a W above it. If you need to put this down as an example in your notes, go ahead and do so. Let's look at 2 more here. So we're going to look at L, which is 3, 4. Remember, 3 is your x, so we're going to go +3, so to the right. And then 4 is positive, so it goes up 4. Here's your dot for L. And for M, it's -3, so the x, the left movement for this one, goes to -3. And then -3 for the y goes down. -1, -2, -3. Put an M there. And that's how you do that. Just a couple more problems for you to look at and see how they work. Okay, let's skip over here then to the practice problems. You got 3 of them that I want you to graph. So put this grid, if you haven't already, for your practice problems in your notes. And then go ahead and label where 4, 2 is, -1, -4, and 0, 2. Come back when you're done. So I did the answers in blue so you weren't confused by the red dots, which came from practice 2. So here is your coordinates for 7, 8, and 9. You can see where G, E, and F is. So hopefully you got those right. All right. Now, here's your box of thought. There's 3 of them. I want you to pick one of them and just do a good job on one of the questions before moving on. So you can do either 1, 2, or 3. And here's your quiz. Good luck on these 8. All right, that's the end of this lesson. A lot of stuff that I hope is review for you, so I was able to go quickly. We'll see you next time.